Welcome back everyone, it's Saturday, that means it's time for the WoW news, and with a fresh patch having launched, we've got an absolute ton to get through. And I can actually get stuck in, starting with an unannounced feature that launched into 10.0.7, kind of snuck in, that kind of blew me away. It's actually really smart. Just like how we can blow you away with the Pale Beyond. Okay, that may not be my most subtle bit of self-promo ever, but it's actually, as of the time of this video, 1 month and 1 day since since we released our first game, The Pale Beyond, a narrative survival role-playing game. It's gone down an absolute treat on Steam. I think we're currently at 91. If you want to support us, absolutely, I'd say check the game out. We also have a multi-part documentary on making the game over on our Studios channel. And suffice to say, the sort of launch quirks and stuff, dev team have totally got those sorted, but that's actually not the end of development. And maybe it would be fun to do a victory lap anyway. So now that I've done a little bit of self-promo and a little bit of teasing, let's get stuck into our first story, the Zelgarub Secret. Okay, 10.07 had a ton of stuff in the patch notes. It had plenty announced, but also there was quite a lot in data mining that we were expecting but never got, or so we thought, because it took a few days of digging, but people discovered the new secret in Zelgarub, and it allows players to craft items that were actually removed from the game entirely in Cataclysm. So credit, of course, to Wowhead for their post and to Epic for their research. Here's how it works, and actually it's way cooler than it needed to be. Okay. In a side entrance to the pyramid Jindo is found on, there is a gong that's surrounded by ghosts. Just under the gong is the shattered Hikari Baiju. You need to combine this with the fragmented Hikari Baiju, which is in the same location, but in the spirit realm. Now, to get to the spirit realm, you need to kill any 2 bosses and then activate Jindo, activate Jindo and then start the fight. Blast him down to 1 HP so that he phases you into the spirit realm, and then you can go pick up the shattered Baiju and leave. The 2 items together make a quest item, and that quest item is turned into this NPC, Rinwosho, in Dazara lore. And now that you've done that, the thing is actually unlocked account-wide, allowing you to farm Hikari Baijos from the trash and the bosses in Zelgarub. Different types of Baijo are traded with Rinwosho for different sorts of things. Though, he will have actually moved to the entrance of Zelgarub for a little bit of convenience. And you can also fish where Gazranka was, right? You can get basically 1 blue cash per day, and they give you a bunch of Baijos and a chance of some old items. There's also a new toy that you can pick up here, which has a bit of a secret attached to it. Classic skilled alchemists can read this tablet to learn how to make the Mojo Madness, and using that potion on the Brazier gives you an hour-long buff that makes mobs in Zelgarub friendly to you. And then that lets you turn in those Baijos into the blood piles across Zelgarub, basically as for offerings. Now, offerings can include ancient patterns for previously removed crafted gear. And that means blacksmiths, get ready to make insane bank from some of these transmogs, because they're ancient, but there's some really awesome shit. The offerings can also include Zandalar coins, and these Zandalar coins let you buy ensembles and recipes from Rinwosho. So here's the deal. This is super flavorful, super esoteric, and really just good. The devs who worked in this didn't phone it in. They popped off, and for this to just be a secret, not announced as a marketing beat, this is just like a whole little side feature on its own. I mean, sure, yeah, it's grinding Zelgarub, but I think it's doing so in a way that has some neat economic implications for crafters. It offers a ton of transmog to players, all while reusing an old raid, characters, and ideas from the past, making it a total 10 out of 10 job, Blizzard. Whenever I initially saw this, I thought, oh, what, is this going to be an anniversary event this year? No, it's actually a feature. So, awesome. Just like this next thing. Speaking of insane, Blizzard put this in the game. And they actually hadn't told anyone to get it, but we were all pretty sure how. And yes, it turns out that finishing the Bane Bloodhoof questline gets you this toy. But if you're a Tauren, you also get this cloak. A set of twin totems to carry around, which, I mean, it's like peak box art Tauren, which is great. Now, while they don't, unfortunately, I do think that taking these off after wearing them, for a while should maybe give you some sort of extra jump height, because, I mean, damn, that sure is leg day. But they look awesome. And there's also a really badass totem weapon. It's technically a two-handed mace. So currently it's believed that it only drops for characters who can wield those two-handed maces, which means Taurens who are warriors, paladins, DK druids, and shamans can go and pick it up, but anyone else is excluded. It's also technically a main hand only two-hander somehow, and that means that enhancement shamans are left out and that fury warriors can't rock two of them, which kind of sucks. So hopefully Blizzard hears the feedback there. It opens these up a little bit, maybe to be dual wieldable or, something like that. Maybe even a staff or a polearm version for casters and hunters. TLDR though, yeah, that's sick. Okay, next, some items with teeth, because speaking of items, 10.1's PTR recently got an update and it added an effect to a very rare item that is absolutely cracked. Now, it's a very rare item, so these function as like little quasi-legendaries. I think they're mostly there to be just some odd, wacky fun and a little bit of power that's nice to have. But this one's mad. It's called the Voice of the Silent Star. And believe me, there's definitely lore things to talk about with that, but anyway, it's a cloak, and it's caused a bit of terror amongst the community because, unlike most cloaks, it has an effect that steals secondary stats from your allies and gives them to you. It also doesn't have any stamina on it, which means that wearing it is actually kind of dangerous to you, which is unhinged. And honestly, this is unhinged, so I kind of love it. Now, the downsides are immediately obvious here. Like, you're going to die and be called a scrub. Like, if you're progging in this and there's a big healing check and you're the person that goes down because you're wearing the cloak that gives you more power, then yeah, that's on you. Certainly some of your group are going to hate you for using this, although depending on, the social situation of your guild, maybe it's fine. I know for my guild, it will be a bunch of banter. I mean, imagine if it procs and takes haste away from somebody during their cooldowns. Ow. Maybe they'll protect it against that. And it's a bit of a weird thing, because I can totally see how this is like sort of mad disruptive chaos, right? But also, this is a very rare item, which means that it's not exactly intended to be something that, everyone gets. And I think it's like it's just them having fun with a pretty strong item that's just a bit cracked and unhinged. And I think that is the kind of texture that maybe WoW needs sometimes, because, yeah, things can get kind of clinical. Now, of course, sadly, it does also create maybe an opportunity for arguments, pug nightmare scenarios, and collapsing guilds if I was to really go all doom on it. But also, I think it's like pretty damn cool and interesting, and I think Blizzard should always try to do what's cool as their North Star. Players can always adapt. I mean, maybe I just have a bias towards chaos. I certainly do remember Ian Hazzikostas talking about, there's Game 1 and Game 2, and Game 1 is the game that they're making. And in Game 1, the idea that a priest can cast Power Infusion on their ally to make them stronger, they think that's a really cool fantasy. And as a new priest main, I also think it's a pretty cool fantasy, and I enjoy it. But obviously then, when that gets into the parsing situation, it creates a bit of drama. But that whole thing of the parses and stuff to Blizzard, that's Game 2. That's like the community thing the community's doing, and not necessarily the game that they're making. So I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this kind of Game 1 versus Game 2 thing. Next, though, I think something uncontroversially good. The lack of Battlegrounds is honestly fucking atrocious, and it's actually something that may be resolved. Now, sadly, I can't just come here and tell you they're definitely coming, and I know when, but Blizzard commenting this is good, because there's a forum thread, right, in the community council with Thicksha, basically posting, asking for more maps without necessarily new modes. Just the simple idea of adding in more capture the flags and more domination maps, that would be fine by players. And, the Blizzard obviously has the team size to get that sorted. Personally, I wholeheartedly agree. Whenever a new Battleground comes out, like, I don't need it to be a new, like, game mode gimmick, actually. I mean, in some cases, I don't even want that. You know, like with the bizarre patch 7.3.5 Azerite Battleground. Actually, just give me loads of capture the flags. Give me some 1 flag CTF, some 2 flag CTF, and in the same way that, like, playing Halo on loads of different CTF maps is fun, I think that would be fun in World of Warcraft. And the good news is that Devzin from the WoW development team responded, saying, quote, "We agree with the sentiments expressed here, and we're working on it. Unfortunately, nothing to share or announce today. We love Battlegrounds too." So hell yeah, that's a confirmation that people in the WoW dev team are working on more Battlegrounds, which is good. And speaking of good, Warlock certainly did have a few good days. This is more of a PSA than anything, but if you see this image from Wowhead's recent post about raid damage going around, don't pay much attention, because basically it turns out there was a bug with Warlock talents that gave them an absolutely massive amount of extra damage, and it has since been fixed by Blizzard. So if anyone is sharing that image without context, trying to say that Warlocks are insane or popping off, give them an info slap in the wrist about reading context instead of just looking at pictures, because the words are important too. It shows how much an accidental 5% extra damage can massively tilt rankings though, doesn't it? Tuning sure is a complicated thing. I'll talk about that in a bit, but first a little bit of, I guess, a PSA if you want to give Daddy Blizzard some more money. There's a sale on faction changes, which I would hope are a lot less needed for social reasons anyway once cross-faction guilds come in. But yeah, there's a sale on faction changes, on character transfers, on name and race changes. They're all 30% off, so if you don't feel like leveling a new character for the Tauren Totem or Heritage Armor quests, then I guess race change? Give Blizzard money? Maybe that's the plan, who knows? But I suppose it is well-timed, given the whole cross-faction guild thing. Obviously, some people, maybe they're only the current faction they are because of those guild things. Now, I would still say, the prices in these are outright goddamn vile, and this really, really should not be the case for simple services. But in a way, that is a ship that has long since sailed, and you have until April 3rd to make with this what you will. And to quickfire some other information. There's been a few different interviews with Ion Hazzikostas that have dropped since our last news video, because yes, it's a very busy time, and I thought we'd just give you the summary of the key points, right? So let's go. Ian said that old unobtainable transmogs will be coming back. Not everything, so stuff like the Corrupted Ashbringer won't come back, but generally speaking, other things will come back. And I think quite obviously today's news about Zelgarub is a good example of that. Also, they said that old Recruiter Friend rewards are reasonably likely to show up in the trading post. Basically, they think it's a good place for old promotional assets, and if people already have them, then they get a bit of a win too, in that they can keep their attendees for something else that they want in that month. He also told Hazel that Dragonflight is about player agency, unsurprisingly, that people should be empowered to play the game the way that they actually want to, and do things that they enjoy. Basically, what do I want to do today, instead of what do I have to do today? So far, I think they've been doing a pretty goddamn good job of actually hitting that. Also, we should not expect a rework to the level of the Retribution Paladin to happen again for the rest of this expansion. I guess there are some ex-MM Hunter tiers for me. But anyway, he also said that Season 4 of Shadowlands was successful. I would totally agree. Season 4 was by far the most fun I had in Shadowlands anyway. And they do want to do something similar to that again. They're not sure if they need, like, the fated affixes to return versus just having all of the raids being, like, available to run through. But, yeah, they're going to do something like that. And when I piece in a few things that they said before in past interviews, it also very much seems like whatever version of Season 4 that we get this time around, it's also going to include something for the world content players, because, I mean, yeah, we all know that they were left out of Season 4. Also, the team is aware that feedback is coming in, that longer raids are actually exhausting to people. So overall then, I think that means that we should be expecting these 8 or 9 boss raids to actually continue instead of 10 plus boss raids. And, you know, there's a bit of me that's like, you kind of have that thing of like, oh, number lower, less content, sad. But when I think about Vault of the Incarnates, to be honest with you, like, I thought they were really good quality bosses. And I definitely didn't find it fatiguing in the way that perhaps some giga-long raids would. So, and actually, yeah, I agree. If you said, hey, you can have a 14 boss raid or an 8 boss raid or 9 boss, I would go for the 8 or 9 boss raid, but maybe that's just me. Next on Professions, where there's a bit of a neat feature coming. So, Ketchup then. Ian talked about Ketchup. He basically said that they are discussing it for Season 2 and beyond, where essentially for them, there's a bit of a hard line to draw between players not being permanently, as he put it, hopelessly behind, and then of course devaluing the existing work of crafters. So no, there will not be full Ketchup, and Day 1 crafters will have more options. But their goal is that if a player really wants a specific recipe, that they will be able to target that as a readily achievable goal. So it'll be interesting to see how they actually end up fully going about that. But another cool feature is they actually want to have NPC work orders in the future, where basically NPCs will send in work orders instead of the system just lying empty when players aren't using it. There is no ETA in that, and they actually do need a little bit of new tech first, so it's probably not a Season 2 thing, but yeah, it is something they want to do to just, I guess, keep that part of crafting engaging. The final thing, and I've dropped the little tuning hint earlier, so it's still a developing story, but the new Onyx Amulet basically has been interesting. It is being, like, those effects are being buffed and buffed and buffed and buffed, and really the explainer here, like the fundamental issue is it doesn't have secondary stats. The power comes solely from the gems, and that just leads to some very interesting scaling things that a lot of community members have been very insightful about, where, you know, it actually can be pretty bad for some classes and pretty good, or a bit better anyway, for some other classes. It's the sort of thing I think I saw somebody say that, like, yeah, this at item level 421 is actually more like a 390 because it doesn't have the secondary stats. So yeah, no shit, Blizzard are just buffing the shit out of this. I am a little bit surprised that they weren't able to catch this earlier. I'm not the most concerned about it as much as, yes, some launch day quirks are an issue. It's the sort of thing where overall I do think that this patch is a really, really big win. So I'm not going to, you know, I'm not going to hyperfixate on this like one problem to sort of, you know, cast like a big doom over the whole thing. But obviously this should be better. It should not have launched like this. And yeah. They should have it fixed. That being said, they've been very rapid about these buffs. I would absolutely hope then that within the first week that they are within a pretty reasonable bracket of their final tuning goal, and that most of the pain will be over with. Because ultimately it's that sort of thing. Even when it's a bit weak for its item level, it still is a pretty handy catch-up for new players. But the design intent per Ian is for it to be pretty much like a super strong BIS thing that you're really excited to get. So obviously, at launch, they missed their design goal, and that is something that's a bit problematic because a lot of the gameplay loop of the Scara Vaults and, you know, getting those keys is obviously around the amulet. So if the amulet's broken, then, you know, it does actually scupper a little bit of their plan. And I suppose that's why they're probably being so rapid with, you know, with all of these buffs. Okay, and with that, just a little bit of Diablo 4 stuff. So there's obviously a lot of World of Warcraft to play this weekend, but some of you may otherwise be busy. And I would say, though, that Diablo 4's open beta is actually currently ongoing, and both Matt and I would recommend that you give it a try. We played it. We have an in-depth impression video over in the Bellular news channel for when we played the more closed one last week. To put a long story short, the narrative, the atmosphere, the like quality of execution in the gameplay during Act 1 is I'll just say, I guess, it's absolutely fucking smashing. I was really surprised. To me, it was better than it had any right to be, and I really would highly recommend that you try it out for free when you get a chance. If you're watching this, then there's a decent chance you're interested enough already, and with it being free, I mean, why not? At the very least, you will, I think, get a pretty worthwhile experience. I think some of their narrative design is really on point, and goddamn, that is one immersive world. And that's not what I thought I'd be saying about Diablo. And with that, that is the end of the news. So, go download Diablo for some free fun, maybe go farm some Zelgarub for your transmog, get that Tauren totem, or wait quietly for more Battlegrounds. There is a lot to do across WoW and Diablo, I guess, which is not a sentence I expected to be saying. So, enjoy your weekend. By the way, human and orc heritage armor questlines, we'll be talking about those soon, because holy shit, how is this the same people that did Shadowlands? They are so good. Oh, it's crazy. Okay, have a brilliant day, and of course, if you want to buy The Pale Beyond and also have that on top of your gaming repertoire, you can check out The Pale Beyond, the game that we developed over on Steam. Pretty crazy, launched a month and a day ago. Time sure does fly. All right, have fun, see you next time.